Okay, go ahead, sir.
All right, good morning, everyone. We thank you for joining us. We're all enjoying the wonderful blessed snow that we got here this morning, so we got off just a little bit late. If you'll join me, we're going to have a moment of silence, and then we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance to our flag, and then we'll do a salute to the New Mexico flag. So if you'll all join me in a moment of silence. Pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I salute the flag of the state of New Mexico, the Zia symbol of perfect friendship among united cultures.
All right. All right, thank you, everybody. We're going to go ahead and get started with our roll call, please, Mrs. Devine.
Yes, sir. Mayor Crawford.
Here.
Councilor Jackson.
Here.
Councilor Coughlin.
Here.
Councilor Cornelius. Councilor Salas.
Here.
Councilor Letterman.
Here.
Councilor Eby.
Here.
Okay, was Cornelius not here?
Yeah, I kind of remember that he was going to be gone this week when we set up the special meeting.
Yeah, he's on vacation.
Vacation
He wasn't going to be able to attend.
Okay, good for him. All right. All right, we'll go ahead and proceed. And we'll run into item number 1 on our agenda is a public hearing in compliance with the Attorney General's Office mandate regarding the Open Meetings Act during COVID-19 state of emergency. The governing body will accept public input via email at irmadivine@rudoso-nm.gov. Public comments must be submitted no later than 2 hours prior to the meeting and will be distributed to the governing body members for review. So we'll get started on that. Ms. Devine, would you like to read our rules about our time limit?
Mayor, before we do that, would you like to announce who's attending?
Oh, yeah, I should do that. I forget. Okay, I was reminded that I'm supposed to let you know where everybody's at. And here in the council chambers with myself is Mayor Pro Tem Councilor Salas, Village Manager Tim Dodge, the village clerk, Irma Devine, and then we have our IT guy that helps us make all this possible, Jeffrey Ferguson, and then we have our village attorney, Zach Cook, in person at the village manager's office. In the back of the building is Councilor Jackson. We've established Councilor Cornelius is gone. Deputy Manager Ron Sena is there also. In the Capital Projects Office, Councilor Coughlin, Councilor Eby, and then via Zoom is Councilor Letterman, who is fresh off her, we're just going to say she wasn't around the state of New Mexico, so she's self-isolating. Sporting a real nice tan, I understand. So anyway, we also...
Hey, Mayor.
Yes.
Eby is attending by Zoom.
Who is?
Eby.
Eby. Oh, Eby's
He's not here with
Zoom?
you. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for lining me out on that, Councilor Coughlin. And then we have different department directors. We have with high watermark, we have Phoebe Swaina. I got to get that right. And then we have people joining us, looks like from all over the state on this. So we understand that the email went out to all the members. So would you go ahead and read the rules, please?
Thank you, Mayor Crawford. For this particular public hearing, and just for the record, I would like to state that the public hearing has been duly advertised as per state required by state statute. We do ask that any public presenters or speakers, be recognized by you, Mr. Mayor, as the presiding officer. We do not allow for handouts at these proceedings. There is a 5-minute time limit to be applied to each speaker and or presenter, and they must clearly state their full name before comments are heard. And their comments should be limited to the item presented for discussion only.
Yes, yeah, they can start.
All right, well, I appreciate that. Thank you very much. And to get started, go ahead.
And Mayor, as to let the audience know that I'm the official timekeeper, and I'll give you the 2-minute warning. I'll just wave my hand up there, giving you 2 minutes, and then let you know that time's up at your 5-minute limit.
And so
Thank
what
you,
I,
Mayor.
you bet. So what I think we'll do is we'll let Rodney, our Parks and Rec Director, present, because it's obvious that not all the information is out there. So we'll get Rodney to come in and do a presentation, and then after that, we'll take questions and start recognizing our public input.
Mayor, I believe we also have, is Mr. Dorgan here?
Yes.
Okay, we have Tommy Dorgan. Is he?
Rodney, you can sit here. And let Tom take this.
You want to invite?
Yeah. So you set up here and you're able to share it to screens or your presentation?
Tom said Casey needs to go with him.
Well, we only have room for
We
one.
just have room for
Zach,
one.
Can you go in my office before?
We're doing some shuffling here, obviously.
No,
So are you gonna be able to do a presentation where they can see it?
I'm not sure, Carmen. What, are you gonna be able to share the screen? Okay.
I think I've done, if I'm taking policy.
We should have had that worked out before.
You know that too, sorry.
Hey, Tom. Hello, Casey.
Yeah, one of you sit there and one of you sit over there. Jeffrey, can you help these guys out on some IT stuff?
There's this PowerPoint that I don't know if you can screen share.
I have it on my computer.
If I don't have it, if I screen share it, then have to be the presenter. And then whoever's talking might get blocked off. Really,
If I email it to Robin, can she then share it?
yeah, I think so.
We're working on sharing of the presentation, so
Bear with us.
Irma's got it.
I can't. I have to log on. She emailed it to me.
yes.
I'm logged in under me.
That's all right. Oh, wait, she's gonna have to email it to you then real quick.
I can email it, Jeff. I believe I can, if I can find it on my phone.
365. I actually have it on the web app right there.
Oh, she's emailing it to me.
It won't allow me to, Jeff.
It still looks like magic, Robin, when you get it done, so.
Let's see. Um, where's the size?
Senator Crawford, if I may, while we're waiting,
Sure.
I would just like to point out that, and also for the public in attendance information, I have distributed some information to the governing body. So you do have a paper copy of the PowerPoint presentation that Ms. Robin Parks is working here on uploading for us, as well as two other documents. We have received email public input on this particular public hearing. So I separated that public input in two different packets for the governing body's information. One of them has to do with public input from individuals who specifically requested to participate via Zoom. So they have been provided the Zoom invitation information, and those are the ones that you will hear from via our Zoom this morning. The other packet is the public input with written statements only. So those particular individuals did not want to participate via Zoom or were not able to. However, they did want the governing body to have their written statement with their input. So that's what you guys have been provided this morning.
Okay.
Right click.
I think so. Should be able to.
You want me to try it?
Yeah. Oh, down at the bottom. Go to the bottom corner,
This one?
and then just hit it or hit it. There. Okay. And previous.
Are we ready?
Can you see it, Susan? Okay.
Good morning, Mayor and councilors. My name is Rodney Griego. I'm the Village of Ridoso Parks and Recreation Director. I wanted to briefly update you all on the ordinance and the proposal associated with it. So what we're proposing is an expansion of Ridoso Winter Park to include year-round operations. Part of the winter operations would include an instructional ski area, a snowboard park, additional lifts to those areas. It would require additional snowmaking, and that expansion of operations would require additional parking. Summer attractions associated with the expansion would include summer tubing, a mountain coaster, and zip lines, and it could possibly even be utilized as an outdoor venue for festivals and concerts that are held in the community. So a mountain coaster, currently there are no mountain coasters in New Mexico. There's one being talked about in northern New Mexico, but it's not been committed to, I do not believe yet. It is a gravity-fed coaster that utilizes the terrain and the fall and the topography for people to maneuver down the mountain. You control the speed of the ride with a handbrake on the coaster. It is a type of amenity that people, because they control their ride, it's really, it will want them to come back time and time again. So some benefits to the Village of Ridoso. So this is an opportunity for a public private partnership to operate a coaster as well as the rest of the winter amenities. It could turn into a year-round attraction. And it also allows added winter attractions such as the beginner ski area, the snowboard park, along with the tubing that allows the village to control its own destiny regarding winter sports. Some additional benefits: it will increase the GRT from having a year-round tourist attraction. As we all know, the winter currently they can host up to 3,000 people a day, and so we're looking at having very large numbers throughout the year, which does impact lodging, restaurants, and retail year-round. We are looking at an increased lease payment. The lease payment, updated lease payment, was based upon an appraisal conducted by New Mexico Appraisal Company. We are also have spoken with Mr. Dorgan, and he is agreeable to the collection of the full cost to produce the water utilized by the winter operations, and it could possibly create year-round jobs. So some of the impacts to recreation that currently happens out there. So if the fields were removed entirely out of the inventory, it would put us further in a bind with not having enough fields. We've talked about this in Parks Commission meetings and with the council in the past about not having enough fields for adult and youth sports, not only with baseball and softball, but soccer and other sports. It could potentially create scheduling conflicts for local leagues and practices, and it could potentially impact the number of teams able to participate in tournaments. We have about 11 annual tournaments that are both youth and adult. It varies with each tournament. Adult, it could impact up to 20 teams. By removing one field. For youth tournaments, it could impact up to 10 to 12 teams per weekend.
Let me ask you right there, Rodney,
Yes, sir.
on the tournaments, from what month to what time of year do they usually run?
So we have our first tournament annually in the middle of May, with
Okay.
our last tournament being the first weekend in October.
Thank you.
So additional parking on A field is mainly required for the winter operations. I personally had anticipated a greater need beyond that. In speaking with Mr. Dorgan, he really does not anticipate the use during the summer. And as always, he's always been agreeable to work around our recreation events at the complex. So it's not anticipated that we would have to remove that from the inventory as I first thought. So I also would like, personally as the Parks Director, I would also recommend, because we've had a long-standing need for additional fields, I would recommend that we look at still pursuing that possibility of adding additional fields for the benefit of the community, not only for tournaments, but for our local youth and adult needs. If we had the additional fields, I know without a doubt the youth tournaments would continue to grow. The reason that we're at capacity for those is just because we do not have additional fields. As you all know, even for youth baseball, as part of the presentation, we build temporary fields on the soccer fields to accommodate those tournaments. So the timelines associated with this expansion, so the summer tubing is a relatively easy improvement. It could happen in a matter of weeks. The winter, additions, could take several months, a year, possibly longer to incorporate those changes and additions of the beginner ski area and the snowboard park and the additional lifts. I apologize on the presentation. It mentions Moon Mountain Coaster. It should just state the Mountain Coaster. The Mountain Coaster could take 12 to 16 months from purchase till the day of operation. And I'll stand for any questions that the governing body may have.
Okay, do any of your counselors out there, do you have any questions?
I do, Mayor.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. Rodney, now, so you're saying that Tom can do this without getting rid of the Field A?
That is correct.
One of the concerns I have is that, you know, these tournaments have been going on since 1986, 1988, whenever that was, so well over 30 years. And out at Eagle Creek, you know, we do have lighting, and that's how I think it's nice that it's kind of out of town, so that when they have the all-night tournaments, it doesn't bother people. I really worry that having those tournaments in town would cause problems with the lighting. So, you know, if we could do that without disturbing any of the three of those fields and continue to work together, that might be a great thing.
In speaking with Mr. Dorgan, that is what he stated. He actually also mentioned that it would benefit his operations to have those tournaments out there. And so, again, it was not a recommendation of Mr. Dorgan to remove the field from our inventory. It was an assumption that I made as the director that would need to happen. So, and just to update you all on some existing way that we have worked with Mr. Dorgan is previously in the past several years, we have allowed the parking of vehicles on B field. Mr. Dorgan does pay a company to come in and rehabilitate the turf prior to each softball and baseball season. We could apply the same operations to A field as well. Mr. Dorgan monitors the use of the field, and we do not park on the field when conditions are not, you know, beneficial to the turf. And so we monitor that. Again, we have currently been doing that on B field, and we can apply the same practice to A field.
Anyone else?
Mayor, I'd like to wait until after the public has a chance to speak.
Well,
Before you ask any questions?
Yes.
Okay.
well, Mayor, I'll take this opportunity and thank you, Tom, Casey, for being here and going on. And Rodney's right. When I worked with Tom at the beginning of all this venture, he always accommodated Parks and Recreation in the village of compromising or working out whatever situation we needed to. And you're generous to continue that as you've gone through the years. My first question, Mayor, is that what is the recommendation from the Parks and Rec Commission? Rodney, what do we have on that?
I apologize, Councilor Salas, that because we have not had any meetings in quite some time, that is an item that has not been addressed.
Okay. And the reason, of course, the reason for not having the meetings of the COVID, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, for COVID. What really got me bothered about this is that we have other committees and commissions that have been meeting over Zoom. Of course, there was going to be a lodger's tax meeting this morning, but because of inclement weather or what have you, they postponed or canceled, but that be rescheduled. I know of planning and zoning has meetings, and at our last regular council meeting, I had asked Mr. Dodge to, let's look at getting our committee meetings going again, because those are valued residents of Ridoso that volunteer their time to listen to things just like this before they come and have a recommendation before they come to the council. I had asked a previous commission member what she thought about this, and it was my wife, and I hadn't talked to her about it or mentioned it, and that was her first question. I said, well, what did the commission want? What did their recommendation? And that's what triggered it even more. And just to let you know, Rodney, she speaks highly of you, and she asked, what, this is Rodney driving? And I go, yes. And then she said, oh, okay, then, if Rodney is recommending it, I'll probably go for it. However, she reminded me of another commission member, a previous commission member, that was very vocal on getting you more fields for the youth generally. And that was Mr. Chad Tucker, who served on the commission very well. So that's where I stand right now, Mayor. I feel that you got slapped in the face by not having this go to the commission, because you appoint those members and they really highly respect you, at least all the members that I've known. And I want to throw this back to the commission. However, after discussion with the attorney, I'm favored, let's keep rolling on here and see what happens. That's where I'm at, Mayor.
Okay. Could we hear from Mr. Dorgan? Tom, you got anything? You're agreeing with pretty much everything?
As I heard comments about the negative comments about doing this and going forward, it was all about the hayfield. And I would point out that I've already been given permission by the council to park on hayfield last April when we proposed the expansion of the tubing operation. And that was approved already. So I already have permission to park there on hayfield. And as Rodney stated, winter is when I'm short of parking, because we take up a big portion of the parking lot with the snow tubing, and where we make snow and we run the tubes down the hill. So, that's really the only thing I have to say on that. As far as timelines go, I think if this was approved, we would definitely be able to have summer tubing. I could guarantee summer tubing this summer, along with one of our zip lines being in operation out there. And I would move to get some other attractions in there as well. The additional snow play area, which I call it, for the snowboarding, a snowboard park, and a ski school, that would be in place, not for this season, but definitely would be in place for next season. And along those lines also, we do not anticipate being the direct operator of the ski school. It would come under my insurance and my guidance, but I have already discussed instruction with certified instructors. And if we do run a ski school there, it's going to be a PSIA certified ski school. It'll be a professional ski school. That's, I think, a big benefit.
Now, Mayor, I agree with all that. Yes, I truly agree with that. And as Mr. Dorgan always utilized our fields and got them back into playing condition in the spring. I believe that, he could accommodate us by keeping a field as is for between May and October, which that was really the original, well, actually April to October was the original agreement that I remember to go there. I'm all in favor of the coaster, the summer tubing, everything there. And as if I understood Rodney right, he would prefer tournaments still happening there so that he could offer another activity while people are out there playing ball or visiting. So that, again, I commend you, Mr. Dorgan, in looking at improving of all that property. And I'm all for that. And I have to go back on Moon Mountain, Rodney. I mean, is there an opportunity to expand even more mountain coaster in that area as well? I mean, I want to move on this pretty quick, just like I said, to have that all installed. However, I do have a problem as I mentioned before, this not being presented to the Parks Commission, and also the possibility of losing a field. We had our strategic planning and comprehensive plan last year, and what I remember was the strongest point was affordable housing, and recreation, more fields. That's all I remember out of all of it. So that's where I'm at.
Go ahead.
Along those lines, I think the village has run a number, or have had a number of surveys done. And I think looking back at that information, you'd find that the data would show that this community is probably 10 years behind the curve in providing recreation for families, entertainment venues for families, to keep up with the tourist industry. There's no way around it. This is a tourist-based economy.
Correct.
And the more we can do to drive that economy through attractions, I think the better off we all are. Summer, winter, spring, and fall.
I agree.
Okay. All right. Does any other counselors have any questions?
Mayor, I have a question for Tom, please.
Okay.
Hi, Tom. It's Susan Lutterman. I was just wondering on the zip line, is that in the summertime? Would that be an interference with any of the fields, like a field?
The way I envision all these summer attractions is that they would be able to skirt. They would be on a portion of the parking lot, but skirt the hillside, so that they didn't eat up a lot of the available parking that's out there, and it wouldn't be on the field in the
Okay.
summer months.
Thanks, Tom.
Okay, with all that being said, and there's no more questions, we'll open it up to the public hearing. And just remind everyone of the rules that we have. 5 minutes, please. If someone's already mentioned it, gone over it, you can say you agree with it and then move on. So let's try not to repeat a lot of things. And please state your name and where you live. And then we'll start off originally with our Zoom folks. So first up is we have an oldie but a goodie. And then we have a nice letter from Debbie Jo Omger. So Debbie Jo, are you available?
Mayor, if I may interrupt for 1 minute.
Okay.
Mayor, if we could have Zach kind of give an explanation of what this ordinance process is, and
Okay, that would probably help.
Yes.
Can Zach come in?
I'll go back there while he's in here. We'll
Okay.
be right back.
Because some people were finding out is the ordinance process is not the same as the final approval or the contract or all this. This gives us the ability to move forward and start looking at negotiations, working out the details, and of course, we still will have public input. So we're going to get our attorney in here to explain it. One day I'll be glad when we're all back to normal, so we don't have to do all the stuff. Zach, could you explain our ordinance process, please?
Yes, sir. You want to come over here? Where do you want me?
Yeah, wherever you want to be, right? Wherever they can see you or hear you. Right there, work.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and councilors and everyone else. So what you're doing here, what's on the agenda, what you're talking about is provided for in our state statutes that allows for municipalities to lease property in a negotiated lease agreement. And what that statute says is that you can do this. You can enter into a private lease or a lease of public property with a private individual. You just have to pass an ordinance. And then the statute says, and this is what has to be included in the ordinance: the name of the person who's leasing, the general terms, the appraised value, and whatever else that is in the ordinance that you guys are considering now. Adoption of the ordinance is not a lease agreement. All it does is it's the governing body saying, giving itself permission to enter into a lease. And before you get to the lease, you negotiate the lease. So everything that's in the ordinance is basically just the raw meat and potatoes of the ordinance. I mean, of a potential lease agreement that the governing body comes to terms with Mr. Dorgan. It doesn't mean that you've come to terms and this is the done deal and then he's off and running. There's still a lot of work to be done. There's still a lot of agreements to be done, and it may come to pass that we can't reach an agreement with the governing body and Tom just say that deal's not going to work for us, and you go away. And if that were the case, then you have an ordinance out there that I would recommend that you go back and repeal. But if you didn't, it just sits out there. So where we are now is the governing body is considering passing an ordinance, adopting an ordinance that would allow the governing body to enter into negotiations with Mr. Dorgan and eventually come to a lease agreement where everybody signs, and then he's off to the races. So with regard to, taking away a softball field or anything like that, that's still negotiable. But it sounds to me in conversations I've had with everybody that that's not the plan. And so Tom and Rodney and eventually the governing body are going to sit down and say, how is it going to look? And that all those details will be developed as we go forward. This just allows you to enter into those conversations and eventually enter into a lease.
Okay. I think that was clear enough. All right, thanks, sir. We'll get Rudolfo back in here. So we will continue on with Debbie Jo.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor, village councilors. Debbie Jo Mayette. I'm the property owner of 10711 Highway 380. Currently live in Albuquerque. I'm retiring soon, about 2.5 years now. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. The information that I received was that Field A would be taken out. So that, of course, that was my biggest concern. Thank you, Rodney, for clarifying that it's a relief to me. But the biggest issue would have been scheduling. I think that everybody knows that the whole enchilada tournament in Las Cruces that brings in 250 teams, the reason they do is they have 10 fields that are right off on the same road. Ridoso gets a lot of rain in the summertime. I do the scheduling for all the tournaments for my sister and brother-in-law, Billy Page, for the Page Sports Promotion. So scheduling for when it rains is the biggest issue. Sometimes we have to go to 30-minute games, and trying to drive across town to come back to another game would be very difficult. As Rodney mentioned, a huge impact would be bringing in less teams. 25 teams is what one field can take on an all-nighter tournament. So that would mean losing 25 teams, which equates to 1,250 people. That includes fans. That could equal 5,000 less people in one tournament. And then you times that times 4 adult tournaments, not to mention the youth or the baseball or the girls fast pitch tournaments that they also would be losing that. Lastly, it's the quality of life for the community itself. I live there, off and on. My mom still lives there, my sisters. So I still consider Ridoso my hometown. And when I am there, I still hope to be playing softball, senior ball, that is, of course. But anyway, just 10 to 15 teams are usually on the waiting list that don't get to come to these tournaments already. So if anything, we do need more fields, not less fields. I'll yield the floor to others. Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Tyler Perrin.
I don't see him up there.
Is there Tyler Perrin?
Mayor Crawford, I know earlier during the meeting, he did email saying he was having difficulty with his connection, but he was continuing to try, so perhaps he'll be joining us.
Okay, we'll go by Mr. Perrin and call back on him here shortly. Next up, we have Dennis Davis.
There he is.
Good morning to everyone. I'm hoping that you can hear me.
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
Thank you. I'm actually kind of in the same boat as what we've had other people talk about previously, in that when Debbie Jo was talking about losing the field was the main concern. I think that is the main concern for me as well. I'm a longtime resident. I've been living here 30 years plus, and I've been a participant in the softball, baseball format for the city. And I live in Ridoso, actually kind of in the border town between Ridoso and Alto. So I don't know where I'd really qualify for living, but it's right up the road from the softball parks themselves. And so I know quite a bit about the circumstances there. And one of the things that we need to make sure of is that whatever your plan is that it takes into account the fact that softball for the parks themselves, for our local residents, is actually a very important aspect to life in Ruidoso. We have probably 300 or plus people who participate each year in softball leagues, and each one of those persons that participates enjoys the social aspect of participation as well as the physical activity of participation, and we would hate to lose any of those opportunities. I think one of the things that we need to take into account is benefits for local residents not being overridden for the benefit of tourism. And I understand that we need to find ways for our community to not only attract tourists, but also to help give them opportunities to do things. But the tourists themselves don't own this place. I mean, they just live here, or they just come here to visit. We all live here, and the fact that we live here should provide us with some kind of assurances that we get to do things that we like to do. And that's not just, a small number of people, but a large number of people who participate yearly in activities like playing softball. And so we want to make sure that, we don't override our local people's social activities just for the benefit of, a few more things for tourists to do when they come to visit. I don't think that we would really see a lot of increase in the number of tourists who actually come to Ruidoso for the activities that you're proposing, but certainly the ones who are here would benefit. And the ones who are here, a lot of them are here playing softball and baseball and, Little League and all those kinds of things. And so we need to make sure that we, take into account that if we don't have the fields and places for them to have the tournaments, then we lose out on a large number of people being able to do things that not only benefit them socially, but also benefit our economy in the Ruidoso area. I don't know the exact numbers of people, but I would say several $100,000 are at stake if we lose softball tournaments, little league tournaments, things like that. Because when I look at the number of people who are here and the money that they spend on lodging and the money that they spend on food, I know that they're paying for a lot of the things that we enjoy here in our community. So we need to make sure that we have places for that activity to continue. One last thing, I'm getting kind of jumbled because I'm trying to get it done fast, but the extra water usage might be a bit of a concern, especially for those who are downstream from the Eagle Creek complex. They already use quite a bit of water for the winter park, and then if they were to increase the amount of water that's being consumed for making additional summertime usage, I'm a little bit concerned that it would draw the table down more for those people who are downstream from Eagle Creek. And I'm sure that they don't want to have to drill additional wells or deeper wells or whatever just to have water for their homes. I think that's pretty much it. Like I said, I was trying to hurry through and not jumble everything together, but I think I didn't do a very good job of it.
Thank you, sir. I believe that signifies your time. Thank you for your input there. Next up, I'm not sure who's going to do the talking, but please just one of you. We have Billy and Patsy Page, which has the Page Sports Promotions that operate out there. So Mr. or Mrs.
Thank you, Mayor. My name is Billy Page. I operate Page Sports Promotion. My wife and I are the Ridoso USSSA area directors and league coordinators for the Ridoso Adult Softball Leagues. I had a big long letter ready to go, but quite honestly, I feel like we've been misinformed. As of last Wednesday, we were under the impression that we would definitely be losing the field, that this was what was the proposal, including the park for the summertime as well. So my letter kind of doesn't make sense that I've written here, but nevertheless, I apologize if it sounds like that it's a jumble because we were trying to rush through this. I'm not sure I understand, but is Winter Park good to go for this year? Softball tournaments and leagues were all canceled this last summer due to COVID-19. We had a plan that we gave to Rodney for tournaments that we would continue on with less than 100 people per field, or at the fields for the tournaments, and less than that during leagues. But like I said, I'm not sure if Winter Park is ready to go for the winter. I mean, obviously, good enough with people left. I realize the benefits that the business get by removing the field or improving the
Hold on,
content out there.
Mr. Page.
Is good winter.
Mr. Page, we're having trouble understanding your voice. Can the counselors, can you understand Mr. Page? I can't hear you, Susan.
I can. I can hear him.
Okay, so it's just us here. I'm sorry, Mr. Page, your voice was jumbled here. So go ahead and see if we picked you back up.
Okay, let's try this again. I realize the benefits the village is going to gain by improving the parks and the fields out there for the summertime. The revenue that the Winter Park brings in directly to the village, there's no adult softball, youth softball, fast pitch, any kind of baseball that goes on out there combined that can match that type of revenue. I understand that. However, I do also realize the repercussions that it would cause to your local community. You know, already we struggle in the summertime with sharing fields out there with just 3 fields. We're at max capacity with the tournaments. You know, we typically take 68 teams, and we have anywhere between 10 to 16 to 20 teams on a waiting list. And I know that the youth girls fast pitch with Julie Rodriguez and with Victor Falvey with the baseball team, they use the other fields such as Capitan, Mescalero, any field that they can get a hold of. The village does a good job of putting together these temporary fields out at White Mountain, and they appreciate that. But we don't do that. We have 3 fields, and that's what we have. I'm concerned a little bit about, well, a lot of it. We already have parking issues out at the softball fields, even without a summertime event such as, tubing or whatever. We have the bottleneck entrance there, and we have issues with that every year, every tournament. And I'm not sure how we can resolve those issues if we are bringing in another 500 to 600 people so they can go sledding at night. And I realize that's a good thing. I urge you and I ask you that to consider, council members, that consider another place maybe for fields. I know it would be not feasible for Tom Dorgan and his crew to go somewhere else. This is where they probably need to be. But is there some way that we can build a complex elsewhere? We have the wintertime community. We have the summertime community. Recent survey says the communities that participate in sports and recreation develop strong social bonds, are safer places, and people who live in them are generally healthier and happier than places where physical activity isn't a priority. Sports and recreation build stronger, healthier, happier, and safer community. With that being said, our local community needs this time, these league nights, the youth, the Little League. I coached Little League for many years. For them to be able to go do those things and not have to fight with the adult leagues for a field, for practice times, for scheduling, those type of things. Again, Mr. Mayor, council members, I ask you to consider these things and before moving forward with this. And I really wish that I had been made aware of some of this stuff sooner so I could have been better prepared. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you, and we're not really allowed to have communication back and forth in a conversation, but we'll have some answers for some of the things that you brought up. I think later on we'll ask those questions. Next is Aaron Kadahazi.
Not there.
Aaron Kadahazi. Okay, how about Julie Rocha? Or Julie Kahadazi?
It's Catazini, Mayor.
Yeah, Carabini.
Catazini? I guess they're still not there, no matter what name I call. Reza Mercado?
The only one I see up there is Bert Frederick.
How about Bert Frederick?
He's up on the left-hand corner.
There he is.
Bert, unmute.
Doing it.
There you go.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning, Mr. Mayor, City Councilors. Thank you so much for letting me speak with you just a little bit today. I was too under the impression that maybe you're losing a field in Ridoso. Let me go back a little bit. My name is Bert Frederick. I'm the state director for softball, or USSSA in New Mexico for adults. I live in Las Cruces, but I spend a whole lot of time in Ridoso, I guarantee you. Maybe one of these days we'll move up there. And by the way, thanks for sending us the snow today. We hadn't seen that for a few years. Anyways, I was under misinformed about that field being taken away, and I was just going to tell you I think it'd be a mistake, and I think you already understand that. So basically, I'd like to thank you all for letting us host so many events up there and give so many recreational opportunities to fellow New Mexicans from all over the state. We really cherish being able to come up to Ridoso as a tourist and a New Mexican. And, that's always been a great opportunity. It's always been a great thing for all of us and our kids and our families. And one thing I would like to suggest, I think is a really exciting news that you guys are doing the extra stuff up there, more things to do in Ridoso. Give me more reasons to come up. I'd love it. That's awesome. And that word will go out, especially through all of our customers and our participants. So, anything you guys might need help with, let us know. And if there's any way we can help you, we'd be glad to do it. Besides sending more people to your area. I would like to make a suggestion though, and I don't know how this falls and how money goes or whatever else, but it'd be great if you would turf those fields up there at Eagle Creek. If you do build more fields, use artificial turf. That would get rid of all the rain delays and so forth. And it might be an opportunity. I know some of you don't like that artificial turf, but anyways, it would be an opportunity to park and you wouldn't have to worry about it as much. I'm pretty sure there would be a way maybe to be able to park vehicles without maybe oil getting into the turf or the artificial turf and so forth. I'm not an expert on that, but I'm sure we can find resources for that. Rodney probably is. Something to that effect, and I think, I've been to the events and the parking is an issue, and I understand that. I run an event where parking's an issue in Las Cruces. Some of your numbers you might want to go back and look at too, just for that one event that I host. As far as a director, I'm the state director, but I host one event. That's the whole enchilada here in Las Cruces. That produces more than $1 million in gross receipt taxes and lodgers taxes. It's a big impact on the city of Las Cruces. So if you put those numbers together with Ridoso, just their local tournaments, that's what you're looking at. So there's some very big economic impacts that softball does for your community. We like to put heads to beds. We like to get your cabins. We like to go to your restaurants. We love a lot of stuff. As money turns over, some of you guys are probably aware that it increases as it turns over.
2 minutes.
I don't have anything else to add. It's just good to see you all, number one, and see my Ridoso family up there, the Pages and Debbie Jo. Good to see you. Mr. Mayor, I'd like to meet you one of these days, maybe see some of you on the golf course because I'm up there playing at Cree and the Links and the rest of your golf courses up there quite often. Plus just recreating and getting my quality of life and getting the stress of being in Las Cruces out of my system in Ridoso. Thank you all so much for those opportunities. And if you ever have any questions or any need for us or myself, I'll be glad to answer and help you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. All right, appreciate it. We'll go back to Tyler Perrin. Okay, and I don't think he's a softball coach here in Ridoso High School. So I guess that concludes.
Excuse me, Miss Mercado is on the.
Oh, Miss Mercado, did you make it?
Hi, yes, my name's Risa Mercado, and I live here in Ridoso, New Mexico. I've been an avid softballer. Again, I with knowing everything we know now, it sounded like we were gonna lose Field A, which was a huge concern. But it sounds like we're able to go around that, which is actually beneficial to have, more things to do for the kids and the adults and all the locals. So.
Did I lose her?
No.
Oh, was she?
No.
Okay.
I'm good.
Okay, you were through. Well, thank you for sticking around. And since she made it, we'll ask for the Catazzinis. I'd say that one closer this time, Susan. Either one of those folks? Nope.
See Tyler Perrin up there.
Tyler Perrin. There he is. I see him now. Mr. Perrin, it's your turn.
Unmute.
You'll have to unmute. Okay, Mr. Perrin. Going once. Twice.
Going what?
Yeah.
He was trying to get on. He has difficulty with his internet right now, so he apologizes.
Okay. We're working on that too in Rudoso to get us high-speed fiber so everybody will hopefully have good internet soon. Okay. If he's not able to get on, we'll go ahead and move forward. And I will tell you that we did have some letters come in from different folks that have all been passed out to all the counselors. We've had them in, a chance to read them all, plus all the emails. Thank you for reaching out, the texts, the phone calls, because we do like to hear from people, and it's obvious that we really didn't get the point across as well as we should have. But this is the first step in a many steps on something like this, and we have been looking at other opportunities for over a year now for additional green space fields. All of those. That's why we did the questionnaire on the links, what the public wanted, not just the people that live around it, but all citizens, renters, investors in Rudoso. We sent that out, and it was clear they wanted to keep the links, but it was also clear they would want to have additional green space. And so some of the beautiful things that are so attractive for all of us here in Rudoso are also our limitations. So we're hard at work trying to find additional spaces because we realize that our fields are not adequate. So we'll close the public portion of this, and we'll go back into visiting with the council. And so I know that during one of the questions it was asked about everything else around this country's been closed down. And the question was brought up, do you have the go-ahead to start operating, Mr. Dorgan?
The governor issued, Speed New Mexico came up with a proposal that the governor bought into, that you're allowed to operate at 25% of your lift capacity. Our lift capacity is 4,500 people per hour, and we sell a 3-hour ticket. So theoretically, it's not going to impact our business, because only during the Christmas holidays do we even reach that 25% threshold.
So until something changes with turf, then you will do. So once again, we don't understand the logic behind those decisions, but we understand the power of lobbying. Correct?
Mayor, I'm sorry, I did not understand what Tom had to say.
Yes, he said that the governor, they've been talking about the New Mexico Ski Association or that group, and that she has approved a plan that they can operate at 25% of their lift capacity, which his lift capacity is 4,500, and so 25% of that. So is what he would be able to operate at currently. And so we're not sure, what actually opening date and things like that, because we've talked to Ski Apache, they still don't have a comment on what they're going to do. So, but that's what Tom says that he is able to do at this point. Anybody else have any other questions? Councilor Coughlin, I know you've been bubbling over, so before you let explode or whatever, would you like to ask any questions?
Not really questions. I've been listening to the statements being made, and I've been making notes, and I've got a statement.
Okay.
If you'd like to sit back and listen for a little bit.
Well, I love to do that when you're talking.
I know, it gives you a chance to go use the restroom.
Yes, exactly.
So there's been many different sides to this topic, and it's gone back and forth a little bit. And we've got Mr. Dorgan, who wants to expand his offerings at his business in the area he currently operates at. Then we've got the tournament organizers who want to make sure that they have space to continue operating tournaments as their business. And then we've got tournament players, most of whom come from outside the village limits. What has been mentioned, but not a focus of the conversations, is the impact on our local sports teams. During tournament season, which Rodney said was from mid-May to the first weekend of October, we have baseball, we have softball, we have football, and we have soccer, all of which end up being displaced by the tournaments. For a couple of years, I was organizing and operating the youth football league, and we were bouncing from field to field to field because of tournaments that are taking place. There was a comment about tourism taking away from the opportunities of locals. Well, these tournaments do just that, and they should come after the local needs. Well, we hear about the impact, the economic impact of the tournaments. Folks I know who come here to play, they either have or they know someone who owns a second home in the area. They're not renting any place. I've seen nightly rentals where an entire team comes in and packs a home. We're different than other areas, and with tournaments, as was brought up, like Las Cruces, for example, they don't have an abundance of second homes, and hotel rooms are really their only other option for people to stay at. I'd like to see a true study rather than just the repetition, how much money it brings, to see what the true economic impact of these tournaments are. In the second paragraph of the proposed ordinance, it says that Mr. Dorgan, or it says to expand the 1997 lease. I believe that language should be replaced with a new lease, new agreement to be negotiated due to the many addendums to the original lease. There's been so many, we're up to 5 addendums to that original agreement. It's difficult to track. So I think all of that, as we move forward, needs to just be thrown out, come out with a whole new agreement with Mr. Dorgan. And then this summer was like nothing else in this community, as we all know, and we've all seen and we've all heard. Tourists overwhelmed the town. Who wouldn't want to come to Ridoso? But as we move forward, we need to remember the sacrifices locals make and assure that they do not continue to be pushed aside for some of these business ventures. And I think we really need to focus in on what happens and the impacts on our locals, rather than these outside entities coming in to operate a business during the peak summertime. It's a balancing act. I understand that, but we need to keep that first and foremost in our mind, because sometimes that gets lost because there's a saying about the squeaky wheel. Well, a lot of the local people don't squeak loud enough, but I do hear about that. And that's what I've got to say about this.
Okay, thank you. Do any of the other councilors have any comments? Is our village manager, are you on where you can talk, Mr. Dodge?
Yes, I am, Mayor.
Do you have any comments that you'd like to make?
Mayor, I think we hear clearly that, that the community wants additional fields. They want to make sure that we're not impacting the locals, use of the fields. I think from my perspective, I want to see us be able to move forward and accommodate as many people as we possibly can. So with that said, Mayor, my recommendation is that this ordinance move forward and that we take into consideration, keeping the fields and building a new complex as well. And with that, I'd just like to say that I'd like Bert to commit to giving us more tournaments if we do build another complex.
That's a good one, Tim.
Mayor, I have something.
Okay.
Thank you. I just wanted to say, because I was under the impression that we were getting rid of Field A as well. I really like what Tom and Casey are doing to their winter park and possibly making it a year-round park. I think that that's a great idea, but I don't, I can't go for this if that Field A is going to be gone, because I don't feel it's right for us to, even though that's our property, those 3 fields have been out there since 1986, and I don't think it's right if we have to take away a field. And so for me to vote for this, I have to have an assurance that we go ahead and be looking for additional fields, a complex, whatever, but that those fields will not be touched.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
And
Mayor?
Yes.
Mayor,
I've got a comment.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Joe? Evie?
It's Joe.
Yes, sir.
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, were you speaking?
Well, I want to thank everybody. Yes, I was,
Okay.
but that's all right. We can let Zach speak if he needs.
No, you go ahead. You're the counselor.
Well, I want to thank everybody that put their concerns forth, and also for the manager Dodge, and also for Zach Cook clarifying the ordinance, and for all of the people that voiced concerns about this particular project going forward. And that's exactly what it is. From what I've heard is that it is a proposed projects in different areas, so that it's not necessarily going to take away A. Also, with the explanation from our village attorney, Zach Cook, clarifying the fact that this just gives you the authority to move forward in negotiations. So I believe that with full confidence that we should negotiate and lay all the issues on the table and discuss them. But I also feel confident that the council, before an agreement would be signed, would take into consideration all of the aspects of the concerns that were brought up by the different citizens, and also Rodney and Deputy Joe Almager and the different citizens, Billy Page and so forth, that we will make the right decision for the community and for the village. And so I feel confident in moving forward. And I was concerned also with taking away the whole baseball field, but in listening to the presentations and brought forth by the different people like Rodney and Mr. Tom, that I feel confident going forward, and that we should move forward to allow negotiations to start, and then work out all the details. If it doesn't seem like a good deal, I feel confident that we won't accept it. So thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Joe. Zach Cook, did you have something you needed to add?
Mayor, as I'm reviewing this, sitting here, the draft ordinance, I have one proposed amendment that would be on page 2 in paragraphs A, B, and C. I originally wrote that in addition to the annual lease payment, RSPIS shall pay to the village of Ridoso 10%, and then that goes up to 12%, and then 15%. I would recommend we amend what was published and what has been under consideration to say not less than 10%, not less than 12%, and not less than 15%, just for negotiating purposes down the road. I think that still keeps you in compliance with the state statute.
Okay,
And that's all.
okay,
And if you choose to do that in your motion, you would move to adopt this ordinance with the amendment suggested by the attorney.
okay. All right, does, any of the other counselors have anything to add? Yes, sir, Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes, Mayor. Yes, I was, as I was earlier, against the ordinance as it's coming up without recommendation from the Parks and Rec Commission. However, as Zach explained, that it would be the contract that could be presented to the Parks and Rec Commission. But I would like that, Mr. Dodge, to take action pretty fast, getting that commission together so it could be recommended to the council for approval. And I echo Joe and Susan's concerns, all of us counselors' concerns and residents that we keep the field. And I'm sure Mr. Dorgan would continue operation as he always parked there in the last 5-6 years, I believe. I lost count, but I didn't have a problem with that. So I can move forward with this ordinance with the amendments, as long as that contract agreement is run through the proper channels. And I put that on your shoulder, Mr. Dodge. So be aware.
Okay, and I'd like to add something to that. I mean, as what we've done, and we've been pretty successful getting things moving here the last, 10 years less, we're picking up speed with what we've done at Grindstone. And we had objections over there in the beginning, and we didn't, hit it on all cylinders to say right off the bat, but we listened to the public. We've worked through it. Yes, it was a big attraction this summer, but I get comments weekly on the radio show from citizens that are enjoying the amenities that we have down there.
Exactly.
That they go fishing, they do, and that's brought to you by tourism dollars. And so we do have to balance that. But I would like for us to move forward with some sort of a resolution, because we've been talking about additional fields. We've bought some property. We've talked about fields there. We're just trying to be proactive, but I know how we work. If we've got a plan and a goal, then we seem to be able to get it, like we're doing with Moon Mountain, with the water projects that we have. So I'd like to, propose that we put together a resolution that says that we're going to make this a focal point on finding the green space, making things happen so that we can, there's no reason that we can't have it all, I don't think, at this point. And so that would be my request, is that we move forward with the understanding and the assurances that field is not going to go away, that we work in harmony. We learned some things this summer with communication, I think, Mr. Dorgan, that we need to have better lines of communication. We seem to be doing a lot of talking, but it doesn't always get to the right person.
Correct.
So it's no fault of anyone's. And so what I want to do is we'll propose that, but I think the best interest of all, and it sounds like people understand and that we can work through this, that we move forward. So we've closed the public hearing portion. We've had the other. So at this point, can I ask for a motion?
I'll be glad to make that motion, Mr. Mayor. I move to approve ordinance 2020-07, an ordinance for the leasing of the tract of land known as Eagle Creek Sports Complex and adjacent real property to Ridoso Snow Play and Ice Skating Inc. to expand the operations of Ridoso Winter Park and to construct and operate additional outdoor recreation facilities with the amendments to Section 3 of this agreement as mentioned by our attorney, Mr. Zach Cook.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any final discussion?
Yes.
Are you going to ask about the ice skating?
I'm going to ask about the ice skating, Tom. I remember when our girls were in first grade and I got Esther all excited. We're getting an ice skating rink. And
you may recall, we did attempt to do it.
We
an affordable system out there. And utility costs and the lack of use. I mean, at this point in time, maybe, we're drawing many more people, but the studies that.
Mayor, we need him to be closer to the mic, please.
Can you get closer? There you go.
The studies we've seen on ice skating, having tried it and failed at it, show that in a rental situation like this, people that aren't ice skaters tend not to participate.
Right.
Those that do may only go out and skate for 10 or 15 minutes because they can't, their ankles can't support them. So it's a tough one to balance as far as from a financial standpoint. Like I said earlier, and maybe it wasn't heard, the utility costs of running the chillers at 100 horsepower for a standard sheet of ice, they have to run constantly now. And I don't know if it'd be viable without it being in a atmosphere controlled building where you could refrigerate the building and get the humidity down and have hard ice. Because one of the safety features or concerns about ice skating is the ice has to be extremely hard.
Correct.
You can't skate on soft ice. You can skate on it, but it's very hazardous. And without hard ice, it's almost impossible to do.
Well, I appreciate that, Mr. Dorgan, and I was hoping to volunteer time to run the Zamboni on the ice when it was up there. And I honestly, I appreciate that information because in the later item, we have a ticket for a nice skating rink at Wingfield Park. So that your information right there really helped me.
You want to always consider the cost of keeping it hard.
Hard,
because
right
your
there.
insurance is crazy. I mean, you get a little 6-year-old girl out there that comes and her skate sticks in the soft ice and goes down, and you got stitches, and now you got plastic surgery, and
of course,
it doesn't end on the first go around. It's down the road 10, 12 years. So insurance is crazy on an ice skating rink.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Roll call, please, ma'am.
Yes, sir. Councilor Salas?
Aye.
Councilor Kaufman?
Sorry, aye.
Councilor Jackson?
Aye.
Councilor Letterman?
Aye.
Councilor Edie?
Aye.
Good. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. We look forward to working with you, Mr. Dorgans, to get everything that we need done to get accomplished. And then we will, I hope next meeting have a resolution that has a focus on green space, all the different fields that we need. And do you need another mask, Councilor?
I got to go get another mask, but I appreciate you, Mayor, taking that lead, and that's why you're mayor.
Oh, yeah. Yes, sir, Mr. Dorgan.
Can I get some idea on timeline for the negotiations?
Well, we want to start those immediately, Rodney.
Yes, sir.
You want to start?
We have a pretty good.
We have a template. We want to sit down and go over some stuff with you, and then we'll get Mr. Dodge involved, and of course Zach, and we'll be at your disposal because we know time. These things need to move on as we've talked about. So,
very good.
All right, thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you all. We're going to move on with the rest of our presentation today. Item number 2 is discussion and possible action on adoption of resolution 2020-41, a resolution amending the fiscal year 2021 budget quarter ending September 30th, 2020 for certain funds and application to local government division LGD of the New Mexico Department of Finance and Administration, DFA, for the approval thereof. And we have Miss Judy that is going to go over that with us, I guess.
Yes, thank you, Mayor and councilors. In front of you is our resolution, the first budget adjustment for fiscal year 2021. This will go ahead and move on to DFA for their final approval, but this is the first step that we take in order to process the budget adjustment. If you look at the budget adjustments over the years, you will recognize that this first quarter adjustment is always the biggest adjustment because of the main fact that we're rolling over capital projects for one fiscal year, which would be from 2020 into fiscal year 2021. So at this point, the first budget adjustment would increase expenditures by $54,362,082. And on the agenda memo, you'll actually have the corresponding amounts of each fund. And for our discussion today, we will focus on one of the spreadsheets within your packet. It is actually called the Department of Finance and Administration, Local Government Division, Financial Management Bureau, Schedule of Budget Adjustments. It's actually a spreadsheet that has some top columns that are highlighted in gray, and it actually goes by each functional category and lists out what the adjustments were made. So,
Judy, let me ask you,
yes.
on the attachments, what is the heading on that? The resolution 2020-41 or resolution report or budget recap? I didn't want to go.
It's the resolution report.
Okay, that's the one you're talking about now.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. And I'll just wait a couple of moments till everybody gets there, and then we'll go forward. One side point, of this 54 million, you'll remember that the actual rollover for the sewer line project through FEMA and some of the bridges that we have, that budget adjustment totals 28 million just by itself. And there are some other capital projects from GEO funds, general capital improvements, and SGRT, which makes up a significant portion of that 54 million. But for our discussion, we'll go down line by line, fund by fund, and feel free to break in at any point if you want further explanation on any of our budget adjustments, or if you want to just expand the discussion a little bit. So if everybody's ready, we will go ahead and move on to the general fund.
Resolution report that she's going over.
I've already seen it, and I see it's pretty good, really.
It is.
Okay, so it sounds like everybody's there.
Yes.
So we'll go ahead and start with revenues. We did increase some of the general fund revenues to the addition of some grants and some other miscellaneous revenues. The biggest adjustment was probably the approval of our CARES Act grant funding from DFA, which totaled $2,787,000. We did actually increase GRT a bit. As we were looking through GRT distributions through September, we noticed that we weren't too far down from prior year actuals. So we decided there was some room in order to increase GRT in order to include some of the expenditures before we were approved with the amount for CARES. So we increased GRT by $805,000. We did receive the fiscal year 2020 New Mexico Clean and Beautiful grant of $22,000. The expenditures were in the prior year. However, the timing of the grant reimbursement didn't happen until this year. So that money was actually expended in the prior year, and we just received the grant reimbursement in 2021. And although it will actually increase our revenue, so that's why you see the budget adjustment. The police were actually awarded.
Judy, hold on.
Yes?
I think you answered my question. So this money is added to the grant amount that we applied for this fiscal year, correct?
Yes, but the expenditures were in the prior year.
And
So even though it's technically a wash, we still have a little bit of extra money in 2021 because we did actually receive that grant receipt. Now, I would, if we are going to use it, I would assume that we only use it for a one-time expenditure if we needed to.
Okay, for the New Mexico, for the Ridoso, Keep Ridoso Beautiful program?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Sure. And as you know, sometimes we lend out our firefighters to go fight fires in California, Arizona, Colorado. We did receive a reimbursement. Some of our firefighters went out in July, and they actually get paid not only for our firefighters' hourly wages and benefits, but they also get paid for the rental of the equipment. So you will see that we got an RMP fire reimbursement of $77,567. And later on in the discussion, you will actually see now that when we increase our revenues, we'll also increase our budgeted expenditures. And then I did have to change the way I financially report our donations. Before I had kept them in a separate fund so I could keep track of the monies easier. However, with a GASB 84, I had to start accounting for those donations differently. So I had to transfer all the donations for police, fire, parks and rec back into the general fund. And that totaled $39,000. Going forward, the departments will actually spend that donation money through their regular department operational budget. And at the time of expenditure, we'll increase that budgeted expense for the amount of donations that they have. Now going on to expenditures, you'll see that the general fund actually had some 2020 rollovers. We rolled over the research services for the grindstone and link survey, which was $8,000. We had some residual funds for the master plan that we need to pay out in the amount of $13,000. And then the metro redevelopment plan, we rolled that over for $51,000. We are also going through the implementation of CityWorks software, and that rolled over at $36,000. The Youth Conservation Corps, we had to roll over their grant from the prior year in $6,200. And last year we began replacing some of our fire sirens. However, the project wasn't completed, so we rolled over an additional $18,000 from the prior year to finish implementation for a couple of sirens. We didn't use any of the abatement monies from last year. You all had allocated $25,000 towards that program. And since we didn't use it, we just went ahead and rolled it over because I believe there's some new projects that are gearing up in 2021. One of the deals, I had a discussion with Village Manager Dodge, and in our past lives, we had always paid our fire operational funds out of the general fund, and then we would leave our state fire allotment monies alone to accumulate in order to buy equipment, because fire equipment has a big dollar value and they're big ticket items. So sometimes it's not very easy to buy a ladder truck or a fire brush truck. So we used to reserve those funds for those types of purchases. However, when I came to Ridoso, we noted that some of the operational funds for fuel, travel, and some very other expenditures were paid out of that state fire allotment monies. So I had asked him if we could maybe transfer the accounting for operations for the fire department, because for the past 2 years, Chief Thetford has been trying to save enough money to buy a new truck. So when we started looking at the allotment of what additional funds the general fund would have to take on, it amounted to $107,000. So what we did, we figured and felt like there was enough room within general fund operational revenues that we could reasonably and easily take on those expenditures. So we actually moved all the operations out of the state fire fund and moved them into the general fund, therefore allowing the freezing, the unfreezing of monies that could be set aside and saved over years to buy equipment. At the beginning of the year, and you'll see down later in Fund 207, we are actually rolling over $500,000. And then if we free up this other monies, we're hoping that Cody might be able to purchase a truck, if not this year, but hopefully next year. So you will see that there is a transfer of fire operational expenses of $107,000, increasing the general fund budget. Do y'all have any questions on that?
That's Fund 209, right? Judy?
Fund 209, yes.
Okay, I thought you said 207.
That's what I thought too, but 209.
209, and it's labeled fire.
Right.
Okay, so, there were some other additional addressing supplies that were needed from a Walmart grant. And, there was, firearm simulation equipment that, was budgeted. And of course, at the beginning of the budget, we had budgeted all the radio station, expenditures within the general fund. However, once the budget was created, we decided that we wanted to isolate or separate the radio expenses into an enterprise fund. So you will see that I decreased general fund expenditures $27,000, and moved those expenditures out into an enterprise fund for the radio station. And we also included budget for Christmas and Halloween decorations at $60,000. If we move on to transfers out, we did separate the RMP monies between how much was for personnel and how much was for equipment. So of that amount, $21,000 was used for personnel that stayed in the general fund, and we again transferred $56,000 to the SURF so that Cody could save some monies together to outfit future equipment purchases. And of course, as we started getting more into the radio station and developing an adequate budget, we determined that the subsidy to the radio station for this first year would be $150,000. So you will see a transfer going out from the general fund and going into the enterprise fund for the radio station. So if there's any additional operating budget needs for that fund, the general fund would have to increase that subsidy. So in a nutshell, that's what happened in the general fund. If you have any questions, I'll stop here, and if not, I'll go ahead and keep on moving forward.
I don't have any.
I think you need to keep on moving.
Okay, all right, so then we're gonna go to the corrections fund. The police department decided that they're gonna remodel the booking area, so we just increased their expenditures from cash at $4,000. When we go to SGRT, there were several capital projects that rolled over from fiscal year 2020 into 2021. Some of them include the Eagle Creek wellfield design at $1.7 million, Alto plant number 3 upgrade at $1.3. There were some dam improvements at $8,000, Greenwell pump at $181,000. Cleaning out of the grindstone drains, $206,000. The Upper Canyon diversion design at $116,000. The water conservation projects at $397,000. And there's also a water conservation plan rollover at $44,000. For some years, we had been anticipating the purchase of the CGEMS water rights. So I had been saving monies each year from reserves in order to have a cushion whenever council and Eric Boyda had decided that that was the route we were going. So over the years, I have saved $2.6 million. So if there's ever a decision to purchase those water rights or any other water rights, we have cash available to make that that sale. And of course, I had to increase debt service payments because for some reason on one of our refunding, now that we're in the final years of that debt service payment, we go from paying principal every year to paying principal every 2 years. So that's why that debt service payment was rolled over from 2021.
So Judy, let me ask you this, and I don't know if you could answer it, but these amounts were what were budgeted last year, I believe. And is that the full amount being, because I was thinking that the cleaning the grindstone drains work has already been done on that, I believe. Am I correct? I don't know if Eric's there.
Mayor Crawford, Councilor Salas, right now that work is being designed and the bid specification is being put together.
That's right. I was just wondering if these were full amounts budgeted and some of them being worked on that we've already expended some of those amounts on all these projects. So
what you are seeing, Councilor Salas and governing body, is at the end of June 30th, if we had budgeted a project for $1,000 and let's say we wrote checks for $500. We left $500 available budget. I am simply just rolling over the $500 that was left available at the end of the year to next year. And it could be that the project started, however, with transmittal of accepting invoices or project design or something. Some of the expenditures might be a timing issue between fiscal year 2020 and 2021.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. On Fund 206, our EMS fund, we actually got $2,900 more than we actually budgeted. So we increased not only that grant balance, but we also budgeted their cash to contingency so that they are readily, funds are available if some EMS type expenditures come up. Again, fire fund, which is the state fire marshal allotment, which is a combination of your ISO rating and the number of fire stations you have. We rolled over cash from 20 to 21 in the amount of $535,000. On LEPF, which is the Law Enforcement Protection Fund, we're just budgeting a residual cash amount from the prior year of $4,000. And the same thing on the special library fund. There's some residual cash that is allocated to some GEO bond grants. So as soon as they tell me how they're going to spend the money, those would be allocated and rebudgeted. On lodgers tax, we were looking at some revenues coming in, and we increased the revenue budget by $11,000 in order to help compensate for the rollovers. Which were parks projects at $11,000, grindstone projects at $38,000, and then the grindstone concession at $117,000. There was a little error in the amount that was allocated in the preliminary budget for the chamber contract, and we were short by $7,500, so we made them whole. And then, of course, we rolled over some post-compliance software in the amount of $19,000. Moving on to the streets or the municipal gas tax, I just adjusted the MAP grant to actual and decreased both revenues and expenditures. On the special recreation fund, we just adjusted the ending revenues received. We adjusted the budget to actuals, and we were short of $4,000 for the retaining wall and railing. So Rodney transferred some of his auction funds from the SURF in order to clear up that discrepancy. As far as their rollovers, parks projects rolled over at $27,000. Watershed had $1,000 left. The glamping was still available at $25,000, and there were some other various projects at $1,958. We had to increase their utilities by $5,100, and then they did some chip seal to some of their areas at $10,000, and of course you'll see the retaining wall being rebudgeted and the engineering of the beach at $6,000. We took some of the monies from salaries since in this season there were not a lot of actual employees paid out of that fund. That were solely dedicated to that fund. Everybody chipped in through overtime to help fund that area. So moving on to intergovernmental grants, which is Fund 218. All their revenues were fiscal 2020 rollovers. So you will not only see a revenue increasing, but you'll also see the corresponding grant expenditure. We're rolling over. This first one of 192. When I looked at the balance, I didn't realize it was already closed out, so I'm not sure why I rolled over $192, but that's a misnomer. We actually have an open legislative appropriation for the stucco at $175,000. We have the legislative appropriation for the magistrate court design at $162,000. And then we have some NMDOT grants for some of our trails and the roundabout. The roundabout is being rolled over at $237,000. The Cream Meadows Trail is at $535,000. The Links Trail for design is at $85,000, and the Moon Mountain Trail for design is at $51,000. Last council meeting, you did accept the agreement for the construction on Moon Mountain, and that increase of that grant for construction will be at a later date. If we go into forestry, we're rolling over a legislative appropriation, revenues at 150, and the expenditure would be 97,000. For RSVP, in fiscal year 2020, there was a federal grant that they had, and usually it was on a status of use it or lose it. However, because of COVID, the feds have allowed us to spend that residual balance in 2021, so you'll see that Rodney is getting an additional $7,600, both in revenues and expenditures. On the DWI grant, which is Fund 223, we're just budgeting the new grant once we got the notice of award, and it's at $185,000, and the expenditures are supplies at $22,000, services at $159,000, and law enforcement is at $26,000. Reserve, which is our capital equipment reserve fund, we're just transferring the equipment part of RMP from the fire department at $53,000. And then, of course, there's all kinds of rollovers from the departments. One thing to note in that fund, we do have a contingency of $492,000, which is available for equipment purchases in the new fiscal year. Fire is rolling over 112, police at 20,000, so on and so forth. Some of the transfers that we talked about the retaining wall, and actually we needed an additional $2,900 on the VO match for Cream Meadows. So Rodney took it out of his auction account and moved it forward to close out that planning grant on Cream Meadows Trail. FEMA, which is the big one, we're rolling over the federal grant that the feds still owe us on the bridges at $1.2 million. The state owes us $372,000 on bridges, and the state grant for the sewer line, they owe us $3 million. Again, remember that the sewer were maxed out and due to Sandy recovery, and that's the amount that we are subject outstanding. On the bridges, they're still considered large projects, and as we complete that, a grant amount will change because they will actually pay us for whatever the actual totals of that project are. We're not subject to any limit. So whatever the final construction cost of each bridge is, the grant will be adjusted to increase for their proportionate shares. On the next fund, which is the geo capital projects, we're rolling over a legislative appropriation for Alto number 3, and we have $600,000 left from the Series 2017 bonds to spend, so that's coming from NMFA. And then, of course, the rollover of some of the geo bond projects are the Country Club at $111,000, Alto Plant 3 at $3.2 million, Pine Cliff Design at $88,000, Paradise Design at $54,000, Hemlock 2 at $98,000, and Tanner Countries at $10,000. This does not reflect the CDBG grant that we were approved for. That budget adjustment, increasing both revenues and expenditures, will happen at a later date. And then there were some other miscellaneous expenses tied to the BOR grant application. If we look at the general capital improvement, this is where the EDA grant for Main Road is. On that grant balance, we have $208,000. We just finished paying out Roper and Zia, so me and Ron will be closing that grant out and that project out, hopefully within the next month. We also have a legislative appropriation of $484,000 in that fund. Some of the project rollovers was Main Street at $500,000. We have affordable housing. We had $1 million set aside. On Horton, we have $786,000. The village remodel, we have it budgeted at 1.3. The Winfield House is at 161. Main Road Bridge is at 236,000. Eagle Creek is at 35,000. Paradise and Whole is at 100,000, and the Meacham property is at 710,000. In this fund, we have a contingency of 967,000 that's available cash that can be used to fund other projects coming up in the fiscal year. And I've also budgeted about 300,000 to furnish and Village Hall after the remodel. So going forward to RJU, we've rolled over their contingency at the budget hearings in May. We were a little short to replace the contingency, so we had decided that once the fiscal year closed, if there was enough residual cash to be rebudgeted, we would rebudget the contingency, and there was, so we did replenish the $250,000 contingency that we try to keep on hand every year. Big D had some outstanding balance of 40,000, contract services at 100,000, and RJU admin projects at 30,000. We're rolling over the RJU building at 741,000. There were some outstanding equipment purchases at 128. Sewer line extensions, $65,000 available, and lift station redos or upgrades at 282,000, and the Alto Reservoir project at 300,000. As for solid waste, we just rolled over their building remodel at 269,000 and dumpsters at 185,000. For the airport, they did receive a couple of grants. The CARES Act at 69,000 and their maintenance grant at 10,000. And of course, they had donations that had to be transferred in due to GASB 84 and a runway grant at 170,000. You also see the corresponding expenditures. Right now, the CARES Act, because we used it on prior year salaries, it's held into contingency, and as soon as they need money, we can transfer it out of that contingency line. We've recorded the maintenance grant and the engineering at 32,000 and the construction at 137. Then, of course, you'll see the actual budget for the radio station. We've included some advertising revenues, the subsidy from the general fund, and their budget is broken out between personnel and operations. Personnel's total is about 50,000 and operations at 102,000. On risk management, we increased the employee awards, and last year we had received $40,000 from Blue Cross Blue Shield. They didn't say exactly why it was. They told us it was a COVID-19 rebate. However, in the current year, we found out that was the money that they were issuing back to us for the difference in the increased premium amounts from July and August. So we had to turn around and pay that money back to Blue Cross Blue Shield. And then we actually completed some safety doors at the senior center in the amount of $9,700. So overall, as you can see in the recap, revenues that were adjusted by 11 million, transfers in and transfers out changed by 3 million, and expenditures changed out by 54 million. So right now, this actual budget adjustment is due to DFA by October 31st. So numbers have already been input into LGBMS, and we're just awaiting approval of this resolution. So at this time, if you have any other questions or need any more explanations, I'll take any questions.
I think you did a good job answering all that. Does anybody have any questions of Judy? Okay.
Judy, thank you. Great job.
Oh, thank you.
Mayor, just one thing before we move forward with this, I just want to make sure that everybody understands that the next agenda item, that these budget adjustments aren't directly related to the next agenda item. Is that correct, Judy?
Yes, those would be in a separate adjustment that you probably won't see until December.
Okay. So I just wanted to make sure that everybody's aware that what we're proposing now is just making that adjustment, budget adjustment that happened with the activity that went on, and then the appropriations that we made into the specific areas. So it's independent of the next agenda item.
Okay. Thanks for pointing that out. Any other questions? We got anything else to cover on that one? We're good?
It's all good.
Okay, so, we need a motion to accept the adoption. Correct?
Yes.
Is anybody out there?
I make that
motion.
Oh, okay, great.
Okay, and who was seconding it?
I'll second it.
Okay, Joe made a motion to accept Judy's, the adoption resolution 2020-41, and Susan Letterman seconded it, and we need a roll call, please.
Counselor Edie,
Aye.
Counselor Letterman,
Aye.
Counselor Jackson,
Aye.
Counselor Coughlin,
Aye.
Counselor Salas.
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 3 is discussion and possible action on fiscal year 2021 budget. Tim, you gonna take this one, or is Judy?
Mayor Judy can handle this.
Tech team.
Okay, go
So,
ahead, Judy.
Okay, so as you recall, when we were in the budget preparation stage back in May, in order to balance the budget where our operating revenues equaled our operational expenses, we had to cut several equipment purchases out of the budget and a lot of other needs out of the budget in order to make it balanced. And we had pledged that after the first quarter of GRT distributions that we would come back and revisit all the cuts from the fiscal year 2021 budget. So that is what we're currently doing. Included in your packet should be a spreadsheet that talks about the GRT trend, and then on the page 2 or the tab labeled cuts were all the items that we cut out of the department's budgets, and so that we're revisiting to see what you all do. So we'll go ahead and turn to the label that's tabbed GRT. And when we started doing this process, we had been looking at GRT, and we noticed that beginning in 17 all the way to 2020, we had seen at least a 5% increase in GRT each year. Some of those increases within the last fiscal years were because of construction projects coming or being built throughout the village, such as the hospital, the schools, and different things like that. So if you look at the comparisons between 2017 to 2021,
Judy, hold on for a second. I think we're missing that sheet.
Let me go see.
okay.
Yeah, Judy, we only have the one that says FY 2021 budget cuts at the top.
I think we do have that one, but there's not the analysis that Judy's talking about. That was on a separate form. And
that was on a separate.
Yeah, that one's not in here.
I can. Let me text Robin. And I can email it to Robin, and she can share it with you guys.
Okay.
Unless she can hear me.
I don't see her on, but she could be. Is she? No.
I don't think so.
Okay, just give me 1 second, and I'll get it to you guys. Okay. Okay, I just sent it to Robin.
I'm not here listening.
The mouse, oh, he's got it.
Huh? Well,
Take a break.
Hey, Mayor, Irma just brought us copies. I'm sure she's bringing you copies in there too.
Okay, did you hear that? But Zoom will need it. Letterman will need it. Joe will need it.
Okay, I can email it to them
Okay.
also.
Judy, what sheet do you want?
The GRT one.
Thank you.
Susan and Joe, I just emailed it to you guys.
Thanks, Judy.
You're welcome.
Good, thank you.
I'll get everybody a second to get there. Oh, perfect. Okay. So I can see it on the screen. So when we started looking at the GRT, we were looking at the trend from 2017 to current fiscal year. Now we know that that only includes the receipt through October. But if you look at each fiscal year, it looks like we were growing at least 5% each year. Now in 2020, we did receive that New Mexico tax and rev payout back in September of 19. The figure that's on the spreadsheet is actually backing out the money. I know it says clawback, but it's probably better of a payout. So those are true GRT figures after deducting the amount. So you can see over the years, 2020 probably was our biggest increase since 2015 or so. So taking that information and applying it to fiscal year 2020, if you look at the collections from July to October from fiscal year 20, which is the prior year, to the current year of 2021, when you back out that additional funding from tax and rev, we're only down 3.75% in GRT. Now, did somebody have a question?
Nope.
Compared to last year.
Okay. Okay, so therefore, if we take that little deduction and take it off of what the actual increase was, I'm feeling like we can afford, based on current trend, to increase GRT revenues probably by 11.04%, which would amount to 1.1 million influx into budgeted revenues. However, not all that money goes to the general fund. It's broken out between the general fund, SGRT, the treatment plant, and solid waste. SGRT not only gets the SGRT GRT, but it also gets a portion of the environmental GRT tax, which is also split by the treatment plant and solid waste. So those would be about the amounts that are increased to GRT if we decide to increase GRT levels to that 11.4%. However, we don't have to do that. We can take a conservative approach and take any amount less than that. However, it's up to whatever we want to do, but based on current trends after our first quarter and a month, I'm pretty comfortable in increasing the revenues. If we look on the cuts, which is on the next tab, we're going to try to take it between recurring and non-recurring. So this year we got influxed with the additional CARES Act funding, which is actually a one-time deal. And so when you're looking at what to use the money for, since CARES Act is not a recurring revenue source, we should probably allocate one-time purchases to that money. So they would be purchasing a piece of equipment, doing a project, or maybe doing a study one time, but not anything that reoccurs like salaries or operational like utilities or anything like that.
Judy,
Yes?
just real quick, I think it's important to mention that, you know, on the bottom of this spreadsheet, it actually shows the CARES Act money. And then
Oh, yes.
And then it lists the expense that are eligible expenditures, you know, going down, you know, the PPP, the building maintenance, the tents, the proposed telecommunication equipment. And then it shows the available funding of 2.4.
Yes.
That 2.4 funding is of expenditures that have already occurred or that plan to occur that are currently budgeted items within our general fund. So that's an actual windfall amount that we're going to be looking at. So I just wanted to give that brief explanation.
Yes, that is correct. And so right now we've already used some of those funds to do those type of expenditures. So we actually have 2.4 available out of the 2.7. And then of course, on the left-hand side are all the reoccurring cuts that we made, and the projection of GRT that we would have to allocate. We actually have some positions that have frozen, and a 3% COLA. On the right side are all the one-time expenditures, and you can see all the departments. What we did not fund in 2021, those are all the residual balances. So with council's direction, I would take any discussion on what expenditures we might revisit and put back into the 2021 budget. So, Tim, I don't know if we want to start with the positions, maybe that'll be easier on the recurring side, and then we can go to the non-recurring, the capital purchases or studies on the left, if we want to start that way. I know it's a big list.
Mayor, what my recommendation would be is to, you know, to recognize those positions that we have frozen, but give you know, Ron and I, administration, the latitude to not hire some of those positions until we see fit. We're not too sure what the pandemic's going to do, but some of these positions, and I'll just use the director for the convention center for an example. You know, I don't think that that's necessary to move forward on hiring that position at this time. The library manager and the assistant position in there, those are two positions that I think we need, but I don't believe that we need to lift at this time. The positions that I do feel that we need to fill are the various positions that are in the enterprise funds. You know, the enterprise funds are independent of the general fund and the GRT. So I would recommend that we move forward on hiring those type of positions.
I would agree to that. Does anybody else have any comment on that?
I agree completely.
Okay.
Mayor.
Hey, just real quick, and what are you, I'm sorry, I'm the lingo. What positions are you talking about, Tim?
Maintenance workers, street supervisors, people that are in the enterprise front street, you know, utility stuff like that, that they can go ahead and feel that we put we froze those. back in
Susan?
March.
Susan, they would be any of the positions that start with a 5 series number.
Okay,
So anything beginning with 502, 522, right there.
okay. I noticed the airport manager is still out there. Is that something that, you're looking to do since, we've got Joe Kazubowski out there, right?
Counselor, what we did is we froze the plan of looking at a consolidation of the fire and airport.
Oh.
So,
Okay.
what we would do, and I've had discussions with Chief Bedford and Joe about is reconsidering that. So they're gonna come back to me with a plan on how they're gonna approach that. If we do move in that direction, I think that it's gonna take an initial investment from the organization, but in the long run, it's gonna give us more firefighters and more fire capacity. So, it's a future positioning, but it may cause an investment from the organization moving forward. So that's
okay.
That's a position, the airport position. We wouldn't consider hiring that right now. We would relook at the proposed plan that Chief Bedford was working on prior to COVID hitting with the airport.
Okay. Thank you, Tim.
You're welcome.
Okay, I think we can agree with that, so we can move forward on that plan.
On
Yes.
the other one, Mayor, Judy just went a flat COLA, 3%. I think at budget, we looked at a couple of different options. We went a total of 4, and then we did a step of 3, 2, and 4, depending on positions. So either way that the governing body wants to move forward or not move forward on the COLA, that's up for consideration on how the governing body would like to see that.
Go forward. We held off on those guys when, all of our staff, we held off when we came up with the budget because we didn't know how bad things were going to be. And we are doing better than we anticipated. And I think that that their time is now, and I think it's time to reinstate that COLA.
Any other comments?
Mayor, is there a direction at 3%, 4%, or would you like to see a step?
When you
We can actually work at different ways over a certain annual salary of X dollars, this percentage, under this, we can come back with suggestions and amounts.
Well, I think you should. 3% means a lot more to, it's gonna be a lot more money to a higher paid employee than a lower paid individual. So I'd like to see a stair-stepped approach.
Mayor, if I may suggest, the way that we've broken up the positions, we got our 9 employees. I would recommend a 4%, the manager level at a 3, and then directors at a 2.
At a 2.
Yeah.
Right. That makes sense to me right there.
And what that does is it actually steps it with those positions.
But within this amount of
yes,
355,000
on a recurring annual growth basis. So when's the last time we had a COLA?
Wasn't it the flat 1,500 a year or 2 ago?
Yes,
For everybody?
I can, it's maybe.
I believe that was what the last time was.
Yeah.
So can I ask, in the budget, did we account for minimum wage going up January 1 by $1.50? Is that taken into account with our budget for our employees, especially lower paid? But when minimum wage goes up $1.50, that means that you kind of lose some of the differentiation between steps in there as well if we don't go across the board. So how are we going to approach that minimum wage increase?
At the last time that we had talked about the minimum wage increase, Counselor and Mayor, there had been a review of all the positions, and it was determined that we were above minimum wage even with the increases. However, within the budget, due to vacancies in some of the positions that were not frozen, There's a bit of residual cash, so if there is, we should have enough cushion to offset those increases.
Mayor Council, I don't believe that there's any employees that are being paid above.
Below.
Below how minimum wage would affect us.
No, I know our starting wage is above minimum wage, but what's gonna happen is then the differentiation, I think, for instance, I think some of our lower scaled, pay rates are like $11.88 an hour. But currently minimum wage is at $9. So if minimum wage is going up to $10.50, they're not making that much more above minimum wage is what I'm getting at, because cost of living will go up every time minimum wage goes up. Cost of living go up, and I just spoke to somebody yesterday, and we were talking about how they were saying it affects rents. And what happens is when somebody applies for rent, they're now looking at their new income and having the capacity to pay more for rent. So they're anticipating to start seeing rents slowly start increasing as well because of minimum wage. So it's a double whammy to everybody. They get more money, but they're taking it back out the backside. You're not really getting ahead. And so if we're not adjusting for that, it's almost as if they're losing some spending power on their paychecks.
Well, I think that's what we're talking about, the stair step approach on the COLA, that those people would be impacted at the highest percentage, aren't we?
Yes.
To try to, but we that you're talking about in the future too. I mean, I'm not going to predict that, and I don't want to be too liberal with our paying out everything, because I honestly don't think that. I think things are going to get worse before they get better.
I do too.
All the indicators that I'm seeing are forecasting gray skies, and so I just want to be prepared for that. But I don't mind looking at a stair step approach to that, with the lowest paid receiving the biggest percentage.
I agree with you there.
So, we
have to keep it in mind, January of 2022, it goes to $11 an hour, and January 2023 goes to $12 an hour. So that's something that we need to keep in mind as we're looking at this. I mean, for me, this buck and a half an hour is going to impact us $50,000. So it's a big expense.
Okay, does anybody else have any comments? So what I suggest is if you can work out something so we can actually see the numbers with breaking it down like you have, and it will all stay within that 355 is what you were saying, Judy?
Yes, we'll try to keep it there.
Okay. So do we need to have that put out and brought back for the November meeting?
Well, I think she can calculate that pretty quickly. If you want to do that type of consideration, I would, well, we can go through the rest of the process if you like. And then we can come back, do those, and I think Judy will be able to knock out those calculations before the end of the meeting. So you put that in.
She's at home.
You got that. Oh, you got. I forgot she's at home.
She's at home.
But you have the spreadsheet, don't you, Judy?
But I can try to. I can get an amount that's close.
Yeah,
well, can we just?
I think she has that spreadsheet that we worked off of. Right. So.
Can we just approve it up to the $355,000 and then let Judy do the back end math to come up with that?
Okay, I'm fine with that.
That way we're not pushing her to hurry up and do it before the meeting's over.
Right. Okay,
this is pretty amazing, let me tell you.
Okay, let's move on to, okay, we've agreed on the COLA.
Yeah, on the other part, Mayor, I don't know how you would want to handle this, but, my recommendation is that you look at least, out of the 2.4 million that's left, and take at least half of that at this point, and maybe take turns, see what each council wants to fund.
You talking about on the CARES Act money?
Yes. The CARES Act, we have about 2.4 million that we've identified of available funding. 2.483, that figure. And my recommendation is just taking, approximately half of it, 1.5, and making some type of appropriations at this point.
Off of the capital outlay list that we had from police vehicles to the ice skating rink, that kind of stuff?
Yes. There's, the ones that were, not addressed during budget, and then the bottom ones were, non-reoccurring requests that, you know, have since came up or been discussed.
Well, I
Yes,
think,
the 2.7 were cut out of the fiscal year budget, and then the 83, my figure's a little bit off. Robin, can you redo that figure? That 83's off.
I figured it, it's 599.
Oh, okay.
508.
Those were brand new requests.
Yeah, it was 599, 508. Mayor,
Okay.
can we maybe table this item for a minute? Phoebe has another meeting with SKA at 1 o'clock.
Okay.
And if we can address her item real quickly, Mayor.
Sure. We'll table this issue, so keep thinking caps on, and we'll move to item number 7. If that's okay with everybody, item number 7 is discussion and possible action on task order RFP 2020-009P-02 with High Watermark LLC for professional environmental compliance, construction management, and inspection services relating to FEMA DR 1783 bridges in the amount of $419,037.74, including gross receipts tax. And I'm sorry, Phoebe, I should have jumped on that sooner. Anyway, so Karen, are you up?
Yes, good afternoon, Mayor, council members. Before you have task order number 2 for high water mark. This task order will include all 7 bridges because, as you know, this closed road bridge is not closed out yet. So this task order will cover 7 PW project worksheets from FEMA to take these bridges from conception to final completion, which involves a lot of interaction with FEMA and reporting. So I'll let Phoebe take over and give her update on her presentation on each task order.
Good afternoon, Mayor, members of the council board, and thank you, Karen. I apologize for, and thank you for your flexibility, Mayor, to have us go forward here. And so just to share with you right now, the village has 7 projects still ongoing with FEMA disaster 1783. So this is that Hurricane Dolly disaster. We are at the phase, or the village is at the phase right now of obligation, and it's taken us the village and FEMA and Homeland Security some time to get to this point, but we are about to have an additional increase on the FEMA bridges. And we didn't want to propose this until we had that obligation and that commitment by FEMA to increase to what it should be, the obligated amount for the replacement of these bridges. As Karen said, we have Close Road Bridge that is ongoing. We are continuing to provide some FEMA support and compliance support related to that, which is actually helped the village in understanding where we are on the collapse of the gabions and some of the concerns with the gabion structures that came about as a result of the precipitation this summer. And so we hope that our help has helped the village understand where they are contractually, where they understand where they are with FEMA, as well as where the village is with its compliance requirements. And so we've been, very thankful of the opportunity to continue to help the village of Ridoso navigate all of these different strings and constraints. And we hope that, as Karen said, that this amendment, what Karen and the village asked of us was to project out. So this would take us and the village through the end of closeout for all of the bridges, all of the what needs to be done in respect to final closeout through reimbursement, to making sure that we get those reimbursements efficiently. As Judy reported, we're always looking at the budget as well and making sure that we can have that efficiency. And I think if we have this support all along, we will be able to expedite those reimbursements at the tail end of the project. So just to share with everybody, it is for all the way to the end of all of the project closeouts. And I stand here for any questions that you or Mayor or the members may have.
Any questions, Phoebe?
I mean, I have a question, but I don't know if this is towards Phoebe. But I remember when we were going over all the bridges and we eliminated Coyote Lane Bridge, and for some reason I thought River Trail Bridge was taken out of the list.
Ron?
Mayor and member, I can actually address that question.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for that question. And actually, Coyote was removed from the obligation process because the repair of the bridge, based upon NMDOT's review and assessment of the bridge a little over a year ago, actually turns out that the bridge is in really good shape.
Yes.
The structure of the bridge is probably a little better than what it was previous to the flooding.
Yes.
And so that's why that was taken off the obligation. So the emergency protective measures that were done immediately after actually were adequate to take that bridge back to kind of pre-disaster form, function, and capacity. So that's why Coyote was removed. Now to address River Trail, that went forward through obligation, or is on the table for obligation. So we were able to, again, work with Karen, Adam, and the village manager to ensure that it remained eligible. So right now it is one of those bridges that will be obligated.
Now, is that bridge going to be located at the original site that's there below River Ministry building, or is it going to be moved behind the bank area by the condos?
Thank you, Mayor, member. So we are going to the original location, and that's because of the environmental assessment that was originally, for two reasons. The environmental assessment that was originally done was for that location.
Okay.
The other reason is that in order to change the location, it would be categorized as a different project called an improved project. And if it was an improved project, the village would get less funding for that improved project.
I see. And the reason why I bring that up, Mayor, is because our water line goes across the river right there, and it's just spanned it. And when they were building all those buildings there at River Crossing and the condos, we were told there was going to be a bridge there that would secure that water line. Because it's important that we definitely get that secured. But I mean, there's nothing we could really do on that river bridge, because I remember Mr. Bruce DeFore looking at trying to move that bridge and accommodate him in that property. I don't even know if he's still there anymore, but going back to where the water line was at. But I mean, I'm okay with that. I just wanted to see where we were and that's where I thought it was, for some reason we had took that off the list too. But thank you, Phoebe.
You're welcome, Mayor, Member Salas.
Are there any other questions of Phoebe or anything that needs to be answered?
Mayor, it's Susan. Phoebe, it's Susan Lutterman. I was just wondering, there's and I don't know the name of the road, but up in Upper Canyon, the bridge totally washed out, and so there's no bridge at all. Is that going to be put back?
Yes, Mayor and Member Lutterman, yes, that bridge is called Northeast Bridge.
Oh, okay.
And that will be replaced.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, any other questions? Being none, can we get a motion for acceptance, please?
Yes, Mayor, I move to approve task order RFP 2020-009P02 with High Watermark LLC for professional environmental compliance, construction management, and inspection service relating to the FEMA DR 1783 bridges in the amount of $419,037 or $419,037.74, including gross receipt tax.
Second.
Okay, Susan had a second in there. No final discussion?
Nope.
Okay, roll call, please, ma'am.
Yes. Counselor Salas?
Aye.
Counselor Letterman?
Aye.
Counselor Coughlin? Counselor Coughlin?
Coughlin?
Aye, sorry.
Okay.
I forgot to unmute it, sorry. Aye.
Counselor Jackson?
Aye.
Counselor Edie?
Aye.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Phoebe.
Yes, thank you, Phoebe.
Thank you, Karen.
Thank you, Phoebe.
Okay.
Thank you all. Have a
Judy?
good afternoon.
Thank you. Judy, you want to pick up where you left off? We'll go back to item number 3.
Mayor, I think the discussion was on any of these capital outlay requests and consideration to, fund some of them, or if there's other, alternatives that y'all may want to consider. Ron did send me a text and recommended maybe considering matching some of the funds on the sidewalk project with the New Mexico Department of Transportation as well.
Does everybody know about that one that we received? What was it, 320?
Yes, the state we have an appropriation of 320,000 to do some sidewalk work. And
Where at?
Anywhere in Midtown.
Anywhere in Midtown?
Yeah.
Okay.
They've identified some of the areas that are the worst. And it's going to take, a few years to get it all done, but we thought it was a good gesture to maybe say kick in 50,000 or 100,000 to, encourage the highway department to let them know that we're willing to help out.
Okay.
Y'all like that idea? Out of the 2.4 CARES Act money that we donate, or we match the DOT, basically grant money, because it doesn't require matching of 320,000, match it with 100,000 to start getting our sidewalks repaired in Midtown?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, that sounds like a plan. And then,
Sounds like a plan.
is there any of these others that we feel we need to move forward with, keeping in mind that we don't know what's going to happen? And, so what do we think that we need to move forward with?
Mayor, I have another recommendation, if I may.
Okay.
I would recommend at least 2 police vehicles with the staff that we have coming on. My recommendation is that funding at least 2 of the 4 police vehicles.
I actually favored and funded all 4.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. I apologize.
He wants to, Tim is suggesting that we fund 2 police vehicles because we've got some new officers coming on. And then Mayor Pro Tem Salas suggested he felt like we should move forward with all 4. Instead of me asking, are there any other suggestions that you have?
Would 2 of them just be sitting in reserve?
What?
If we funded all 4, would 2 of them just be sitting in reserve?
No, they need them.
One little side note, remember, I don't know if that's my feedback or, in the SURF, there's some extra funding too that's available in contingency. Of, let me get the amount. Of 492,000, so you have that additional funding available too. on top of these figures. If you were so inclined to approve all the cars.
Well, like I said, Mayor, I feel all 4 vehicles, and pretty much that's to my list of what we need. And being conservative to hold off the rest as this year plays out and the 21 starts up.
I'm actually for that. What on the, I was just concerned about like the half-ton pickup, 2 of them, the 3/4-ton pickup. Who was, that was for parks, and the other one is the parks too? Oh, animal control officer. Okay, I see it now. So we're looking at 2 new vehicles for them. Okay. I just want to make sure that we're not taking anything away from the streets department that we've already approved, that we were able to move forward on some of theirs, correct?
Yeah, that's not.
Yes, sir. Those have already been taken out of the list. This was just the residual requests that were cut out. So Department 155 is parks, as you can see.
Yeah, okay.
Who's Department 210?
Water production.
Okay, I just didn't know why their pickup truck is $75,000 and not even close to the others.
It's that big old 4 crew man semi is what I call it, but it's that big old truck that they have.
Oh, that's not a pickup truck. Okay.
No.
Okay.
Judy, is 80 the street department, the dump trucks, or no?
I think that's street department.
I did not hear Counselor Jackson. I didn't hear the question.
Oh, on your category 80 department, is that, I think Rifle told me it's street department, is that right?
Yes, 216.
And so rhetorically, how in need are they of dump trucks? Because it looks like there was 2 in that reserve list.
I'm not exactly sure.
Ron, can you answer that, Ron?
Mayor Crawford, members of the council, I believe that they did order the 1 dump truck that's going to be inspected with the DOT with the salt spreader and the plows and fully loaded. I can check. I know we were looking at what we're trying to do is to purchase some used vehicles, try to get a dump truck or some other vehicles for the equipment for the street department that are used, that are on a used basis, good used vehicle. If that answers your question.
But I thought the mayor just asked that we were already purchasing those. Are these 2 additional ones?
Mayor Crawford, members of the council, on the original appropriations, he ordered a dump truck, and he ordered also I think it was like a half-ton pickup. Judy, correct me if I'm wrong. And then he still has some remaining funds to order additional pickups.
I'm confused.
He had originally requested 2 dump trucks. He's purchased 1 of them.
I think it should be just 1. I think he had 2 and we gave him funding for 1. That's just a misnomer. I should have taken that out. I apologize.
Transport. Yeah. He actually got a transport from solid waste, so he didn't have to buy that.
Okay.
So he has additional money that he hasn't spent to address some of these items.
Well, here, because look at today, I'm always in favor of the dump trucks with snow plows.
You want 1 more dump truck?
So, and that's what Judy just said. That was a misnomer, that it should have been 1 instead of 2.
Okay.
So I favor that, Mayor. I mean.
Well, I do too. I think we got 1 broke down right now.
Yeah, so we need that 1 more dump truck.
Are y'all good with that? Going ahead and proceeding with 1 12-yard dump truck for streets department?
I am.
I'm good.
Okay, and I guess we're moving forward with the police vehicles.
Yes.
So I'd like to propose for, Parks Department, they're asking for 2 half-ton and 2 3/4-ton pickups. I propose doing one of each.
Yes, I could agree with that.
So do I.
Okay,
But for the future, Mayor, after hearing Mr. Dorgan and his response to the ice rink, I think we need to just take that off our list for liability reasons. Keep the splash pad, but I mean, I'm not saying put that for now, but
I think what we were looking at, I don't know if Rodney's on or not, was the one like that's, it's not the refrigerated kind. It's like the one
okay.
that Schiavone was gonna do.
The cutting board stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's
okay.
what I think that was, but we can talk about that too.
Mayor,
Yes.
Rodney's here.
Yes,
Mayor, if
Rodney.
I could clarify, that actually was a chilled unit. It was a combination.
Oh, it was a chilled unit?
Yes, sir. It was really shallow. It would be, so the splash pad, has just a lid on it, so it's like a shallow depth of, I'm not quite sure, but something like 4 inches. And then all of the chilling equipment was in the concrete. But what I would, that being said, I was hoping to request some funding to plan for master planning of Wingfield Park. I was going to ask for that in the lodgers tax meeting today. And since that's a plan, I think we ought to hold off on that until we complete that master plan. Because that was the proposed location, was in Wingfield Park.
Okay.
I agree with that. I mean, that's good.
Okay.
Mayor, the other item we've been talking about is chapter 54.
Yes.
Yes, that's important.
I don't see it on here.
Yeah, it's on the second.
It's under new requests. It's the first one, $100,000.
Does everybody understand what that's for? That's to hire a professional company to rewrite, go through chapter 54, which is the ordinances that we're always having to go through, that we have conflicting information, or it creates a real obstacle for our staff and citizens alike.
Yeah, it's all over the place.
So I would propose that we do that. We do the police vehicles, the 1-in-1 on the pickups for the Parks Department, the 1 dump truck, and the chapter 54 rewrite. And we can always come back and meet to spend more money, but
Mayor,
yes.
do you want to consider Buxton?
Oh, yes. I thought Buxton, we haven't already allocated money from lodgers tax.
Lodgers tax, we're requesting 5,000 from lodgers tax. It's 35,000. It came in lower than what they had proposed.
For what?
Is there anything else? I'm tired of asking if there's any, because I mean, is there anything besides Buxton that anybody else sees on here? Buxton, you haven't seen I forgot you were vacationing. But anyway, Buxton is a unique tool that we're able to gather. This company gathers information off of basically everything from your cell phone, I think, to credit card use, to whatever, but it's a tool that we can use as a village with partners like the chamber, maybe commercial real estate. We're still identifying these partners, how to identify economic leakage, things that we could sell in the village, that we could, our businesses could modify because people leave the community to purchase these items. Basically, it's to give us an informational edge to economic viability over our competitors. And we did a small presentation here. They were supposed to do a small one this morning with lodgers tax. The fee, the cost of it was at 35 total.
Yes.
It originally was over 40 something, but it came back at $35,000. We're asking lodgers tax for 5,000, so we need roughly 30. But it's just a very powerful economic tool that we wanted to get the jump on. because quite frankly, it's the information out there's really strong, powerful, and also scary. That they know basically how much money you make, what your spending habits are, what items you're looking for, and they can do that as a whole to help give information and tools to our businesses downtown. That basically any business that's a member of the chamber could go in and be brought up to speed on this information, as we are too. So is there anything I left out, Tim?
No. You did a good job.
So it's a pretty powerful tool, just in the information superhighway. You know, whenever the governor gave us a green thumbs up, whenever they were talking about, she had the stay-at-home order, and that Lincoln County was given a green thumb because our people stayed home or close to home more than just about anybody in the state. And it was from cell phone usage that they were able to track cell phone travel. And that's what all this does, is it gives us that information. We want to keep it closely held. Now, anybody can buy this, businesses or whatever. But it was presented to us about, just how powerful the information was. And we want to be able to control use of that so that it's not used in a predatory fashion or abused in any way. So that's what it's about. But also, when you're talking about bankers loaning money to businesses that are wanting to start, there's so many avenues that can come off of this. New businesses that come into town, instead of them coming to you as a banker, they have an idea and some money. We had several bankers in the community review this, and they thought that it would be a useful tool in helping them decide on investing or lending in businesses because it would have a better success rate. So,
Mayor,
yes.
Counselor, I've actually used this in the past. When I was in Las Vegas, I actually used it, and I partnered with the Economic Development Corporation up there. And that's one of the things that we use to help attract some new businesses to town. It does the analytical work and shows you. It's gotten a lot more powerful since I've used it. I've also used it to help businesses curtail what they're selling in the stores. It'll go in and do analysis of what retail leakage is occurring in the community, and it helps your retailers identify what products and goods that are being purchased in other areas where people are leaving to. So, it's just a very powerful tool that helps your community and helps with economic development.
And even with pricing of products and services and things like that, it gives you a comparative edge. Okay, so do we think that that's enough?
Mayor, right now you're at and I didn't include Buxton. Are you guys okay with including Buxton?
And how much was that?
30,000.
Oh, yeah.
And lodger's tax would be adding in 5, should be 30,000.
Okay.
If you're okay with that, that takes it to 656 so far with everything else.
Equal marks.
I come up to 7,370.
Okay.
So the general fund would put 30,000 or 25 in for Buxton?
30,000. So we got sidewalks for 100,000, police for 240, dump trucks for 130. Parked trucks for approximately 52,000, and Chapter 54 rewrite for 100,000.
100,000.
And Buxton for 30.
Right.
I come up with 538, 151.
Wow.
I think that's a little low, Judy, because it's 100,000 for sidewalks.
Oh, I didn't hear the sidewalks. Okay, so we're sidewalks is 100,000. Okay.
Police is 244. Dump truck. Dump truck was 130.
Okay.
The 2 parked vehicles was approximately 52,000. The rewrite of Chapter 54 is 100,000, and Buxton's at 30,000.
So 638, 151?
Yes.
So one more thing that I would suggest we throw in there, only because the convention center is closed, now would be a good time to do that sheetrock work for 10,000.
Do the
Yeah.
what?
The sheetrock work at the convention center.
The sheetrock work at the convention center. Since they're closed, now's a perfect time to do that instead of waiting until whenever things get back up and running, creating an issue.
That's a good point, and I'll go for that.
Mayor, if I could add to that as well, this is Rodney. Typically, staff would be performing that work, the painting and the minor sheetrock repairs, but since they're performing other duties for the village, those are things that won't be taken care of by staff.
Where is that?
It's on the new non-reoccurring, down towards, right about in the middle of that, or towards the bottom.
It's under the new non-recurring on 101, 391, 52, 107.
Okay. I didn't know we needed that. Where's that at?
In the exhibit hall.
Was it some water damage or something?
It's like from where people touch down, all the way around. There's
Oh,
holes
okay.
kicked in it. People rip stuff off the wall. It's in.
Okay.
It really needs professional help. The corners.
Would 10,000 cover that though?
I think that's a bid that they got from
Okay,
Shane Walker's guys.
okay.
Okay, does that sound good to y'all?
Mayor, I would suggest that you do something else, because the number I have is 666, so.
666,000.
So I would recommend you put at least something else.
Well, how bad do we need,
It probably one of the trailers he wants, he's asking for $3 million.
I'm sorry, I couldn't understand you.
Give Rodney one of the trailers he's asking for, since he's asking for 3.
Okay.
That's $5,500, $6,000, depending on the trailer.
And I think he's gonna need it after all the collapsed tents I've seen around town.
I don't know why people didn't take them down. I mean, it's like the storm came in as a big surprise.
Okay.
A tent for 6,500, you said?
No, the trailer.
Oh, trailer.
The trailer.
One of the trailers that Rodney's asking for, one of the 16, I don't know,
the
20 or 16.
So we want to give them 6,500?
6,600.
15, 6615.
Okay.
Let's do the Eagle Bridge Rain Garden.
Eagle Bridge.
I don't even know what that's about.
Yeah,
When it rains, there's a garden there.
Are you talking about by the parking where we park?
yeah, it's on that. It's, as you're going down Eagle, I believe it's on the left-hand side.
Next to Bomberoni.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll shut up.
So let's go with the trailer and call it quits, and then we can review it after we start getting into, see how our winter goes in January.
Another 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
Do another review. Okay, we're at 6,600 and 72,600.
Okay, y'all think that's good? There's a lot of things I know we want to do on there, but I just still want to be very cautious about spending any.
Yeah, there's other things that are, we can wait. I mean, if we're gonna review this in 3 months,
Yeah.
We can review those other items then.
Okay. All right.
Is all of our projects, like the radio station, is that going to be totally, are we going to be able to totally go with that? Do we need any more funds?
We will, more than likely. We have some money budgeted in there. Go ahead, Judy.
So currently, right now, their budget is taken care of. There's budget for 50,000 in personnel and 102 in operations. And I think Rodney and Jasmine have revisited that twice. But in the future, if they do need an influx of funds, it would come back to you all in another budget adjustment that you'll see on a quarter end.
Yeah, I think we're talking more about
Construction.
one-time expenditures, Judy, like the construction and not so much the reoccurring.
Oh, yeah. So I have that currently in the Winfield House addition. And so as soon as it's all priced out and everything, we'll visit budget that we have on hand, and I'll make any shortages or if I need to at that point.
We certainly want to keep our, all these requests going, because that's very important. But, we have some of these projects going, and I would hate to think that we wouldn't continue with those projects and leave them half done.
No, we're not going to do that. We're just, we're still waiting on some costs, and we're trying to, get some more bids, and we still got some engineering, and we actually you met the little engineer. Have we got his paperwork yet?
Yes.
We're waiting on his stuff. So once we get costs and all of those things done, we have some funds set up that's available that we can earmark for those things. But no,
okay.
we're not going to leave them undone for sure.
It will get done.
Okay. So on the budget review, I think we've passed all of that. And so I'd like a motion that reflects the items. Do you have a list of those, Manager?
Yes.
That we can have a motion with the mentioning the approval of certain items.
Would you like me to make a recommendation, Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Mayor, my recommendation is that on the positions that were frozen, that we unfreeze the enterprise fund positions, that the staff is given latitude on general fund positions as they see fit, and this COVID eases up to hire those and unfreeze those positions. Our recommendation on the COLA is to do a step at 4, 3, and 2, moving from line employees to managers and to directors. My recommendation on the general fund projection is to accept Judy's recommendation at 1.127, $269. Our recommendation on utilizing some of the funds that we have had as a windfall is to appropriate $672,600 to fund $100,000 to sidewalk, $244,000 to 4 police vehicles, $130,000 to a dump truck for the streets department, 2 pickup trucks, a 3/4 ton and a 1/2 ton pickup truck for $52,000 total. The rewrite of Chapter 54 for $100,000. The acquisition of Buxton for $30,000. $10,000 of sheetrock work at the convention center, and a trailer for the Parks Department in the amount of $6,613.
Okay, do we have a motion to move on that?
Jackson, I so move.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. No discussion. Roll call, please, Mrs. Devine.
Yes, sir. Counselor Jackson,
Aye.
Counselor Salas,
Aye.
Counselor Coughlin,
Aye.
Counselor Letterman,
Aye.
Counselor Edie.
Aye.
All right. Thank you, counselors, for holding off on that. I know there's a lot of things on there we'd like to spend that money.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Mayor, request a recess. We've purchased some pizza for the staff and councilors that are on site.
Okay, I guess Susan, you'll have to go eat by yourself, and Joe, you will have to follow suit. They brought us a quick snack of pizza, so can we take like a 20-minute recess? Is that too long?
No, whatever.
Can we do that, a 20-minute recess? Okay,
Yes,
everybody.
I'll be here.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. 20 minutes.
20 minutes.